Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're celebrating the channel hitting 50,000 subscribers. I've got some questions from you to answer. We've got the results of the Fargo book draw. It's going to be a great show. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. So 50,000 subscribers. How amazing is that? Thank you very, very much if you are one of those 50,000. Who'd have thought that I would have got here 6 years ago, in fact, over 6 years ago, when I actually created this channel to start sharing bits of my collection. I always remember the first video I did, which was on Star Trek books, classic Star Trek books, which, I love to collect. And I look back on that video and I didn't have a microphone. I didn't have any proper lighting. I was doing it sort of in the kitchen. There was a bit of background noise going on. It sounded like I was a million miles away. It was a world away from where we are right now, where I'm sat in my dedicated studio. I'm in the garden, surrounded by books, which once again I wasn't really dealing in books back 6 years ago. And I'm surrounded by, all around me is basically stock from recent collections. And I'm thinking, wow, what a place to be. And here I am, still 6 years later, knocking out 2 or 3 videos a week on various outlets, writing for magazines, doing all sorts of stuff, really attending shows. It's great, And well, we've got some really, really great questions. I've got a couple of sheets full to go through, so we won't dilly-dally. And also we'll take a pause and we'll be doing the Fargo draw as well. So you may remember about 6 weeks ago or so ago, the fantastic graphic novel Fargo was published, and on the back of that review, I said, anyone who's interested, I've got a spare signed one, signed by Howard Chaykin. So we'll do the draw on that. I only had about half a dozen entries. So whoever's entered, there was a very good chance, fingers crossed, that they might end up winning it. So we'll do that when we're about halfway through. However, let's just crack on with the first few questions. We got 2 pages full, so some of them are longer than others. And the first one here is from Ghostboy7545. What is your plan for your collection? Like, what's your cut-off point for Penguin, Pan, Folio, etc., and how are you planning to store or display it? Well, basically, the display at the moment is I've got as much as I can possibly get out on display as it is, and the stuff that I like to display is stuff that I'm currently collecting. The stuff that is boxed up and in storage, and it's in a couple of different places now. Like, I've got 40 comic boxes just stored at a friend's house full of vintage paperbacks. And my cutoff point is usually about 1970, but obviously I collect stuff post 1970. But for old paperbacks and books, I like to do pre 1970, before ISBNs came in. And with regards, displaying it, the stuff that's out around the house in the loft, that's stuff that I'm currently collecting or is my absolute most valuable and treasured books. And then the stuff that's in other places is the stuff I'm not really collecting. It's all been catalogued, it's all been filmed, and I'm happy to have it stored elsewhere. When I move house, which we're still hoping to do within a couple of years, and I've been saying that for about a couple of years, but it is on the agenda, I plan to have a dedicated library, literally the biggest room on the ground floor of wherever we end up buying, with a nice 4 walls, floor to ceiling, with an island in the middle, which will be back to back with a big U, if you can imagine it, with a chair in the middle, and back to back bookcases for hardbacks. There'll be hardbacks all around the top, and the rest of it will be paperbacks. And because of the amount of books that I've got, even those paperback shelves will have to be double depth, so I can get 2 rows. I don't want to have them double depth, but certain series, say like the Pelican books, which I'm having because they're part of the Penguin story, I'm not going to be too disappointed to have them on, say, one bookcase doubled up with, say, the earlier ones out in front. That would be absolutely fine. But that is my vision, and that's sort of my sort of guidelines for collecting. So thank you for that one, Ghost Boy. Right, next, Paul Rayson 8634. He says, have you considered Perspex sliding doors for the shelves of your dream library to help keep the dust off your books? Well, you may remember last December, I went and bought part of the Eric Gadd collection down in Launceston, and I went along with Morris from Zardoz Books, and that collection, a lot of that was behind sheets of perspex which could be lifted off, and it kept the dust off them. Where my collections are stored in the house, it's not dust free, but it is in a pretty good environment where they're not getting too dusty. And pretty much most of my main collection has already been cleaned and dusted in the last few years anyway. So I'm not too fussed about that at the moment. And I don't think I want to get perspex put in front of my books, particularly say in the Dream Library. I want to be able to just go to them and not have to like move or even slide something out of the way to get to a particular book. So probably not. So I have considered it. I have even seen something similar in place, but it's not something that I'm personally going to want to do. Okay. Right. A slew of questions from Paul Cooper. Now, Paul has his own YouTube channel. Absolutely fantastic. Paul is an SF specialist. He's produced some fantastic bibliographies, and I do recommend checking Paul's channel out. But he has actually given me a few questions, so we'll go through them one by one. As requested, a suggestion. How about general views on the extent values influences your collecting habits? So this is something a bit different. So does the value of a book or a paperback or a hardback, does that influence my collecting habits? Well, I would say when I started collecting paperbacks, it absolutely did, because I was at school and I'd started collecting books, in junior school when I was picking up. Well, the first thing I ever collected was the Mr. Men books, and then that went on to the Doctor Who Target books. But as I got older and started enjoying science fiction, I collected the John Wyndhams, started picking up Penguin books. I read the James Bond books, so I consequently started collecting Pan books. So it was when I was in school and I was picking up those James Bond books, and I thought I'd love to pick up all the Ian Fleming James Bond books in hardback first edition. And I realized that there was no way, even back then, that I could afford, hardback first prints. Even 30, 40 years ago, they were just too expensive. But I realized that the Pan first editions, and I knew a few local secondhand book dealers who knew a bit about paperbacks. They said, well, the paperback firsts are much cheaper. And I picked up Casino Royale from a dealer for £12 in a first print of the Pan edition. I thought, well, that's it. So I'm just going to go for this. So I've always regarded paperbacks as the poor man's first edition. However, later on in life, it hasn't stopped me picking up books in first print, hardback. I don't have any Flemings. I've had right the way back to Moonraker through my hands. A book that's £3,000 now. I have sort of dealt in that over the years, but I haven't decided to keep them. I much prefer the paperbacks. I think they're more fun. I have got runs of hardbacks. I've got Anthony Poole's Dance to the Music of Time, the full set of 12, very, very expensive. I've got Churchill first editions, First World War, Second World War, some of his spin-offs. I've got a run of Dick Francis right from his very first ones. The early ones are all signed in hardback first. I've got the early Flashman books. So I do have collectible hardback first editions. I've got a run of all the Kingsley Amis right back to Lucky Jim in first print. And then odd volumes by different authors. I've got Dare the Triffids, Crack and Wakes in first printing. And so I've got good stuff in my collection, but nowhere near as much as I've got in paperback. But I do still like some odd hardbacks. But back to the original question, that was the reason why value was a consideration and how much books were selling for. So that did in the end push me towards getting paperbacks over hardbacks, because I could just get more for my money. It was literally as simple as that. And predominantly it was those James Bond books which sort of started me on the paperback journey. James Bond for the Pan books and Agatha Christie for all the Penguin books, I think. Agatha Christie and John Wyndham, of course. So there you go. Paul goes on to say, do you ever check values online when you're out book shopping? Do you check when you get back home? I am guilty of that. Sometimes if it's a book that I quite fancy, but I'm not 100% sure of how much it might be, I will whip my phone out, go onto eBay, see if there's one sold recently. I might go onto Abe and see what's around. And then if I still can't find one and the book seems a decent price, then I will most definitely look it up when I'm out and about, and or then pick it up. I don't tend to go out book buying and then check the prices when I get home, unless it's something that I'm just not sure about, something that's turned up in a big collection. I think, blimey, wonder what that's worth, and then I might go and have a look. Do you keep a record about what you think each book or set is worth? No, I don't really. I mean, it's very, very difficult, and you could say, well, there's penguin handbooks, shall we say? There's about 150 of those all told, and I've got almost all of them. But there's a very small amount of people who are actually collecting them. So you could say, to a specialist audience in tip-top condition, you might be able to get across the board, good with the bad, about £3 a book. So 450 to 500 quid for a full set. That's the sort of calculation I would do. Obviously, it's different with really expensive books. The main series, Wartime Penguins, the rare first editions, stuff like that is a different kettle of fish. But I certainly don't look at stuff and think, well, that's worth that much and that's worth that much, because that way lies ruin. And that's one of the reasons why I got rid of my Star Wars toys, is because they were worth too much. I didn't want them in the house. I wasn't collecting them. I couldn't even begin to get them out on display. So that's why 2 years ago I just sold them all to a dealer, and I felt much better for it, I can tell you. With regards, if it's a signature, yes. So if a book is signed, I'll generally make a separate note of it just so that I don't forget. Um, and that's it. That's all I do. So it's not, I don't go into it in massive detail, but I've got like a Google Drive books folder which has got all the different publishers, and then I can just go into it and I can see at a glance all the Corgi books, all the Digit books, all my Guild books. Services editions are listed separately from all publishers, so everything's been catalogued now, and it's in a good place, really. Apart from being a hobby, to what extent do you consider your collecting as an investment and or a business? Everything that I collect, I picked up as a hobby before I was really aware of any monetary value or even about making a living at it. Um, as I said, I was at school. I wasn't, a book dealer or a toy dealer when I was at school, but I was still picking up Star Wars toys and I was still picking up books because I had comics and related stuff, movie memorabilia. And the reason was because I loved it. I picked it up for the love of it first. The fact that over the next 3 decades, some of the stuff I picked up became highly collectible, or valuable, well, that's just a bonus, really. I think I've always said to people when they say, well, I'm not really sure what to collect, I always say, just collect what you love. Pay what you can afford for the best possible quality. But if then over time, in another 10, 20 years' time, what you decided to pick up has ended up being something quite collectible, that's just a bonus, and just, be thankful for it. Getting rid of stuff is not as easy as you might think, particularly since I've been doing that quite recently. And there's so many hurdles now, and the government in the UK are trying to tax you at every possible opportunity. So every single thing I sell through eBay, through Facebook, direct to people through the channel, I have to record, and it has to be declared at the end of the year, and potentially I'll be paying 20% tax on it, and that's just the reality of it. So just be prepared for that when you start to offload it. But at the same time, if you're buying what you love over time, you've got nothing to worry about. But the value of stuff certainly didn't affect what I picked up or what I decided to collect. I collected what I liked because I loved it. I ain't going to go out. If I was a millionaire, I wouldn't go out and start collecting Picassos. You know what I mean? Because they don't. It's not something I love. You know what I mean? I probably, if I was a millionaire, I'd probably start collecting comics again quite seriously, because I do and always have loved collecting comics. And I get a lot of enjoyment from those, but it's not something I do a lot of these days. Right. I think you said you would eventually like to sell your books as your main work. So do you currently buy purely with a view to selling on? So that is correct. So the plan is for me to work my regular job for 4 more years. I will then be 60, and 4.5 years, because I'm only 55 at the moment. So 4.5 years, and then I'll be 60. And then I'm going to draw my private pension that I've been paying in since I was, in my early 20s. And my private pension, with hopefully a little income from YouTube, and also me buying and selling books, will be absolutely fine until, fingers crossed, I hit 67. I can draw my state pension. And I would like to, from 60 onwards, be a full-time dealer and YouTuber. And my YouTubing will be me being a dealer, going to collections, buying collections, processing collections, and enjoying books as much as I possibly can. If I don't have my main job, I will be doing many more book fairs around the country, and there are plenty of them around. They might all not be specialist paperback ones like the London Paperback Show, but I will be doing other stuff as well, and I will be doing perhaps more general stroke collectible books, using my years of knowledge to have some fun. And hopefully the wife will want to come along with me, and we'll be traveling the UK, and I shall really enjoy that, and I'm looking forward to it. And if I was making a little bit more on YouTube, I'd probably do that right now. I'd just give up my day job and just be doing that right now. Unfortunately, the sums don't add up. I'd like to continue paying into my pension for a few more years to top it right up, and but that's the plan. So another 4 years, I'll be gone in no time, absolutely no time. So until then, I have to sort of carry on with what I'm doing now, but I'm not actively buying books to sell. But when big collections come my way, like all this lot, I'm not going to say no. If I'm in a position where I can actually house it and buy it at a good price, even if it means sticking it in a storage container, I will buy it. So do bear that in mind if you are looking to offload a big collection. Good question, that one. How would you judge how much to offer when offered a collection? So how much do I judge? That's a very good question. Um, Sometimes you're guided a little bit by what the seller said. Other times you just need to go and have a look. There's no other way. Even when you've got a picture of it, it's very difficult to assess without feeling, but particularly paperbacks, you need to feel them, you need to feel the quality of them, have how like worn are they, how dusty are they, what are they looking like, basically. So I very much base it on that. I never lowball anybody, and I very rarely cherry pick. I try not to. I actually say to people, look, I won't go along and just pick the best, 100 books out of 1,000 and leave you with the rubbish. I'll just take it all because I know you want to get rid of the whole lot. But do bear that in mind. That will be reflected in the price that I offer you. So one example would be, say there's 1,000 penguins, or in fact, let me tell you an actual story. So the Penguin Crime Collection. I knew that collection was being contested by many other dealers and two local bookshops. But I went there. I built up a bit of a rapport with the collector owner's son and his widow, and I had a good look through for about an hour. And I said, "Well, look, I've got this pile here, about 20 books, and I'll give you this much for this pile of books, or I'll take the whole lot, which is I think what you want, and I'll give you obviously a lot more. But this is it. So if you only want to sell a few and you want to negotiate for the rest of it, then absolutely fine. But if not, I'll take the lot now, and this is my offer." And they decided to just sell the whole lot. But I would have been happy with that pile of 20 books or something. So it very much depends. Sometimes people, and I've been in bookshops where they say, "Well, we're not buying. Are you?" People come in with a bag of books. Are you donating or selling? And they say, "Oh, just donating." And that's what most people do. They can't bring themselves to sell the books themselves, so they just take them to a secondhand bookshop and they just leave them there. They say they're yours. Do what you want, and I think some people just want the books to go to a good home. And the most recent barn find, well, I wouldn't say that was the case, but certainly the owner of that collection is really pleased that I've got them, because he knows they're going to an absolute fan. I mean, there's not many people as big a fan of penguins as me. There are plenty out there, but I'm certainly one of their biggest fans, certainly collecting the old editions, and I'm really enjoying going through that collection. But it's a very difficult one because you have to judge these things on a case-by-case basis. When I came to selling my Star Wars stuff, I knew in my mind, I'd done my research and I knew exactly how much some of those figures were worth. Single figures in four figures, it's just, insane money and not worth it to me. I paid pennies for them. I just wanted them gone. So I knew in my head what I wanted to expect, but I let the dealer make me a sort of a ballpark offer, and we negotiated from there, and that's how we did that. So, but I think there is no hard and fast rule. You need to basically approach each collection in its own way. I remember Dorset Bob and Morris from Zardos going to a collection. Bob was telling me, and it was someone who died, and it was the widow again, and there was books all over the place, and there was a lot of rubbish, but there was some good stuff. So I think what they did, they pulled all the good stuff and they stuck it on a bed in one of the bedrooms, and they said, "Well, look, we'll this is the stuff we're interested in, okay, and we'll give you £1,000 for all these books on the bed." I said, "Oh, that's fantastic. What about the rest of it?" "Well, I thought you were going to take it all away." So we'll do that, but it'll be £500 if you want us to take it all. And she said, "Well, what? You're getting all the books?" She said, "Yeah, we're going to be making 4 trips to the tip. It's rubbish. It's utter rubbish." She took the £500, and they had to clear the whole lot out, including the guy's inevitable porn stash, because that's always the case. And also where the books were, you took the bookcases away, it left ghosts where the books have been like against the walls for years. So yeah, it was more work than they wanted to do, but they got the books that they actually wanted, but they paid less because of all the extra work and trips to the tip. They didn't want to do that. They just wanted to go in and take it. But as I've always said, I would go and I go and clear the lot. So there you go. Another really good question, Paul. Let's have some more coffee here. And this is quite interesting. So I got this mug out. This was a mug that my wife got me on, and it's dated, it says 5,000 subscribers, October the 14th, 2020. So there we are. Look at that. 5 years, just under years later. And we did that 10 times. Right. Paul did give me a lot of questions, didn't he? He's hogging the show here. Right. Okay. An important question. Have you given detailed guidance to your wife / next of kin about what to do or sell should something happen? Do they have a good concept of the value of the books, or do your records show it? Would they know how to sell your collection? I think they'd have a pretty good idea, and they'd be able to call on a few specialist dealers who would help them out. So yes, they do, but I got to admit, I have not got at this exact moment in time a detailed plan of action, because like with my penguin collection, at the moment, my wife would phone Tim Graham from the Penguin Collector Society. For the last 20 years, if anyone's passed away, that's the person that the next of kin would phone. Now Tim is hanging up his book selling gloves now. He's decided the last catalogue was going to be his last one. It was the Eric Gadd collection, and well, talk about going out on a high. So who's going to be around to fill the void? I mean, maybe I'll be the one that people call, and I'll be more than happy to do it for the next sort of, I don't know, 20 years till I get to Tim's age, and then I can retire. But apart from that, well, Bob will be able to guide my wife quite easily, I think. And this is one of the reasons why the most expensive stuff, like the Star Wars collection, I'm getting rid of it while I'm alive, because I want to make sure that the true value is coming back to us, basically. Anyway, a good little batch of questions there, Paul. Thank you for those. We'll do one more and then we'll have a quick break. So IBX Running says, congratulations on 50,000 subscribers. Well deserved. Thank you. My question is, what video do you think has grown your channel the most? Meaning, which has brought you in the most subscribers? The video that brought me the most subscribers is no longer on my channel. So when I started, I did my paperback books and book collection. I did my Star Wars toys. I did Simpsons toys and movie memorabilia. And I also did retro gaming, which was predominantly old video game systems. And although I never collected them anymore, I did do how to use your phone to play retro games. So you could play your old Atari games or arcade games on your mobile phone. And the video that brought in the most subscribers was how to play Sony PSP games on your mobile phone. I remade that video 3 times. The last version of it had 500,000 views, and it was getting 2,000 views per day. It was netting me about £50 a month in Google AdSense revenue on YouTube. And it was #1 ranked in YouTube, and it netted me about 2,000 subscribers off that one video. and countless others, I think, went on and looked at other videos like that on my channel. Unfortunately, the rules changed in the course of the last few years. The rules on retro gaming content and emulation changed, and I didn't want to fall foul of YouTube, so all those videos were removed, and that was the end of that. Consequently, everything I do is legitimate. It's above board. I've got nothing to worry about when I'm talking about old books, but at the same time, that video, sadly, and the ones like it, brought on a lot of people as subscribers, but they are no longer with me because that sort of content I can't really share anymore. So, but that was the answer, and yeah, it's a video that's no longer on the channel. My most successful video as it stands right now is a 4-minute video of me visiting the World Trade Center in 2000. So it's almost to the day exactly 1 year before the planes hit, and it's me going around #1 World Trade Center, walking around the top with a few friends, going in the plaza down below, looking up and walking around the top. And that video has had a couple of 100,000 views, and it gets about every September on the anniversary, it gets 20 to 30,000 views as people start looking up World Trade Center content. So yeah, bit of an interesting one, that. But yeah, good question. Right, I'm going to have a quick break. Okay, then on to the next question, which is from Marky Bug. And Mark says, do you have a plan for your dream library, Jules, i.e. design, materials to use, that sort of thing? Well, in my mind's eye, I absolutely do have a plan. As I said earlier on, it's going to be the biggest possible room that I can find on the ground floor. So nothing in the loft. I want all the weight to be on the ground floor. And every nook and cranny, all the walls, floor to ceiling, will be shelved up. The top shelf will be room for much larger books, as large as like a tabloid size thing, to go around the top. The middle layer, sort of around sort of my chest height, I actually want as a railway line, if you can believe it. So I want a railway line that goes in a massive loop around the room. So where the door is, I would have you can have like a suspension bridge, like a bridge. So that would continue the line going all the way around, basically. And that would be quite fun. I'm going to do it N gauge, which is like super thin. It's the smallest one. And I'd like to do it each part of the track. So I think I can have 3 tracks, and I want to have each sort of segment of the track sorted into different decades. So that's going to be built into it, if you can believe it. And as I said, the island in the middle with big freestanding bookcases that will hold hardbacks and have those back to back. So I've got maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then another 6 back to back. So potentially 12 cases or 12 bookcases of hardbacks, with me sort of with a nice comfortable chair in there as well. And hopefully I'll be able to film in there. I should be able to, which will be great because I can change the backdrop very easily, so we got different stuff to look at. I do also have quite a collection of bookshop related memorabilia, like bookshop posters and stamps, and I want to put loads of that sort of memorabilia in all the little nooks and crannies. I've got stacks of it, and it's brilliant. Point of sale display. I've got mobiles. I've got some absolutely corking stuff right back to the 40s and 1950s for some of these publishers, and all of that has to go out. So I'm making provision in my mind's eye to get all of that out. So it's going to be fun. So I can't wait to do it, really. Dave Sims says, congratulations and thanks for all your hard work. Well, thanks, Dave. What's your holy grail paperback you're still looking for? Well, I collect digit books, and I'd love a copy of Junkie, the digit British edition, Brown Watson of Junkie. Dorset Bob had one, which I think sold for 5 figures. Then literally like a month later, one turned up on eBay USA for $666, and it went like that on a buy it now. So I missed out on that one. I'd love to just come across one, in all honesty, and that's probably the only book I'd really like to get like that, a holy grail. I've got all the Penguin ones now. I've finished the set, and I've even got the pre-production Green Ariel, which is only 7 of those that we know of. I don't think there's anything out there that I'd really consider as a holy grail book for me. I would particularly like maybe a signed Agatha Christie Penguin or a signed Ian Fleming Pan, but they're few and far between, and unless there's very, very good provenance, how are you going to know? Yeah, so nothing particularly. No, not at all, mate. I've pretty much got everything that I really want. There's obviously, I'm in the middle of collecting many different series, but there's nothing that I consider a holy grail now, apart from that Digit Junkie, which would be lovely to get. Only, to continue my Digit run. But if I die without getting one, I'm not gonna go to my grave unhappy. Let's put it that way. Chris Cole says, "What are a few of your best ever finds in the wild?" Um, I've had some very good finds for books over the years. There was a shop in Plymouth, and when they first opened, the second-hand bookshop on Plymouth Barbican, they had a whole bookcase full of Penguin crime, and they were 3 for £5, and I spent in 2 days 400 quid. Thankfully, I'd just been paid, and it was just all rare wartime crime, book after book after book. I just couldn't believe it. It was just amazing. That was probably my best single Penguin find, outside of buying like a big collection. My best ever find with Star Wars figures was back in 1988, and this was why I was absolutely fine to get shot of them. So this was still my best find financially. In 1988, there was a chain of newsagents in Plymouth called Muldooney's, and there was a road called Royal Parade, and I was doing my dad's banking. I worked for him at the time on his fruit and veg stall, and I was just off to do the banking for him. I looked over to the left. Muldooney's was shutting down. They had 4 or 5 different shops in Plymouth, but the one in the middle of town, very high rents, was shutting down. And what they'd done, they'd sold toys since the early 70s, and all the toys that were upstairs in their like storage room had come down onto the shop floor, and everything was discounted. And I looked in, I thought, God, that looks like Star Wars figures, and I'd already started collecting Star Wars. I had my original collection from 78 when the toys started coming out, and I'd left home. I'd started picking Star Wars stuff that I didn't have up at boot sales. I loved it so much, and back then it was mega plentiful. But I could see in the distance there was one of these wire floor standing bins, basically, and I went in, and it was full of Star Wars figures, carded, 29p each, and they were all the very last ones, what we now call the last 16. And it was the rarest of the rare figures, and I literally couldn't believe my eyes. And even back then, they were pretty pricey, some of those. So I just took the whole thing up to the counter. I said, "Oh, I'd like these, please." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I want them all." He said, "Well, we haven't got any bags." I said, "Stick them in a bin bag. I don't care." So off she went, and I looked around me, and everywhere I looked, I bought all the Star Wars figures, everyone. Some of them, there was three of a figure. In fact, some of them were so nice, I opened them and put them in as loose examples in my own collection. But there was a yak face in there, so that was a figure which cost me 29p. Yeah, and it was mint unpunched. It'd never been on the shelf. It just come from the case in there with a 29p sticker on it. Thankfully, the sticker came off. And when I eventually sold that one, I bought it in 88 and I sold it 2 years ago. So I kept it all that time, just under 40 years. But that one figure I got 1.5 grand for. So that was just one of them, and there was a whole thing of that. At the same find, over the course of the next week, I picked up 4 carded Mego figures, 75p each. There's a Batman, a Robin, a fist-fighting Lizard, and a fist-fighting Spider-Man. Worth thousands of pounds each figure now, unfortunately. Got rid of those. I got 3 Doctor Who poster sets that were sealed from Tom Baker's time, with the pens still sealed in there. There was an ABBA one, and there was 2 Professionals ones. There was stuff I left behind. It haunts me. So there was so much Action Man stuff, you couldn't believe it. And one thing I remember, I didn't know much about Action Man back then. I do now, but back then I didn't. And there was a cardboard box, and it had a small Palatoy carded things on it, which had Action Man. They released obviously all the soldiers and sailors and RAF, but they released sports people like football players. There was a rugby player, there was an athlete, and there was also a cricketer. And the Action Man cricketer is very scarce because there's lots of bits to it. But there was a little cricketing accessory set which had the stumps, the wickets and the stumps, a little ball, and a couple of other bits and pieces. And Palatoy released that as a carded set on its own. And there was a whole box of this one here. You flick through, it was like 20 of this cricketing accessory set, and they were 20p for each one. And I didn't even pick one up. Now the ball alone, just the cricketing ball loose, is 50 quid. I mean, maybe even more now. And that carded set is not around. No one's got any. It's barely even been like photographed and seen in an archive. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of pounds just for that one little set, and there must have been 20 there. So yeah, I did incredibly well with all the Star Wars stuff, but the stuff I left behind, I can picture it now. Huge piles of the Tom Baker doll. I didn't pick any out because I had one. All brand new box. The Talking Dalek in the both colours. The Boba Fett Slave one, they were £7.50. Huge stack of those. Dressing up sets, Halloween costumes. I mean, it was just incredible. And die casts, old Matchbox cars, shop display stuff, cabinets full of it. And I wasn't into it at the time, and I didn't really know what it was worth. So all of that got left behind. But there you go. That was find of the decade, really, find of many decades, that one, and I'll never forget it. It was incredible. Based 1973 says, "Congrats, Jules. I know that collectors are usually inspired by childhood nostalgia for an item. Is it your goal to collect and save for posterity, or collect and sell to then replenish the books? Is it the hunt for the books that you look forward to?" I'm not collecting for any sort of nostalgia anymore. Everything I possibly had as a kid or a teenager, everything I possibly wanted as a kid or as a teenager, I've got it all. There's nothing that I am craving for. I've probably got it, had it, enjoyed it, and now I've got rid of it again. I've sort of, I've got over it. And I think that's probably the case with all the toy stuff now. That's why I'm happy to sort of get rid of my memorabilia, as it were, my merchandise. It takes up a lot of room. And as I get older, I want to specialize more and more. And my specialization is really books, not like old action figures and Star Wars stuff. I still like enjoying to collect the Matchbox cars and the Dinking Corgi stuff, but I'm not a hardened collector. It's nice to go along to a toy fair and have a few bits and pieces to look out for when I'm there. It makes the shows fun. But I'm not really prepared to drop massive money on it because it's just not worth it for me. In actual fact, that sort of stuff that I've been buying is stuff that was released even before I was born. So definitely not nostalgic at all. I'm just picking it up because they're just beautiful, well-made toys, and that's the reason behind it. With regards to the Matchbox, which I have gone down that rabbit hole quite a bit, I still love Matchbox. But I haven't bought that many because it's not show season, although there is one finally next month. I've not been buying any on eBay because I just haven't had the time to look, basically. And I like finding them at the shows. And because they're so small, you can get an awful lot in quite a small space. So that's another reason I quite like the Matchbox. But the big Star Wars stuff, the huge ships and that, no way am I going to devote so much of my space, my precious space, to all that. I'm so relieved that that's all out the door, and I am now actively selling the Simpsons stuff. It's slowly but surely going out. I sell quite a bit on eBay of that sort of stuff, but because it's so big, I don't put stuff up until I've got the boxes to actually send it, and that's the hard bit, to be honest. Anyway, good question again. Are there any books that you've sought for years but haven't been able to get a copy? No. I mean, I've been after the Digit Junkie, as we discussed, for ever since I've known of its existence, I suppose. But I don't think so. If this was, 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, that last Penguin I needed, Death on the Borough Council. But since then, since I got my copy, I've seen two. I missed out on getting one for just £100, which was a steal. And I've now got one spare in my box of spares, as it were, my many boxes of spares. So there was one in the Penguin Crime collection that I've ended up keeping. So I now have two copies of the book that for 39 years I couldn't even find one of. So, like buses, they come along all at once. But there's nothing out there that I've not been able to get personally at all. Adam Moeller 2239 says, Congrats, Jules. Any specific books you recall passing on and never saw again, or acquired down the road that still haunt you? There are a couple of books which I had the opportunity to keep that I decided to let go, and I really wish I didn't. One of them was a beautiful, beautiful copy of Casino Royale. I mean, this is in the 80s. It was about 89, 90. It was a copy of Casino Royale, but in a second edition dust wrapper for £250. And the wrapper was mint, but it was a second print dust wrapper, but a first print of the book. Turned it down for 250 quid. That's the most valuable book now that I really regret not picking up. The other books I regret not picking up 30 years ago when they were plentiful and I had plenty through my hands was the Patrick O'Brian, Jack Aubrey books. I do regret not getting those. However, it's funny because they're on my mind at the moment because I've been reading pretty much one a week and they've been really good at taking my mind off loads of stuff that's happening in real life, and they're great reads. And I've started picking up the Folio Society editions. They published the whole set, all 20, and they are beautiful hardback slipcase editions. They are gorgeous. Absolutely enjoying reading them and enjoying collecting them, but I do wish I picked up the originals when I had so many through my hands back 20-30 years ago when they were really plentiful. That's the only ones I can really think of. That Casino Royale. Oh dear. Right, Lobster5. Hello. He says, "Hey Jules, question for your Q&A video. How do you manage your to be read list? Sometimes when you have so many books and you can't stop buying more, it's hard to actually decide what to read next. Also, what percentage of your collection have you read? And is there a book or series that you're really looking forward to reading?" How do I manage my to be read list? Well, I've got a pile next to my bed, and at the moment that list that pile rather is quite small because I've been doing quite a few shorter books. I've been reading a bit of non-fiction. I've literally just started the third Patrick O'Brian, which is HMS Surprise. Started that last night and really enjoying it so far. And I try and read half an hour to an hour a night. That's all I've really got time to do before I'm ready to fall asleep, to be honest. But I don't really manage it. But you are right. When you're surrounded by books, and say I was looking, what shall I read tonight? There's too much choice, so I have to just have things that I don't even think about, like the Patrick O'Brian. So I'll just start the next one of them. I'll finish that, then I'll read maybe a couple of other short things, some magazines or some stuff online that I've been researching. Then I'll get back to the next Patrick O'Brian. It's whatever takes my fancy, really. I do enjoy reading series chronologically. With the Patrick O'Briens, I've only ever read up to the first 7 or 8, and I used to read one a year because I knew there was only 20 and he wasn't writing, dead, he wasn't writing anymore. And I thought every time I go abroad or go on holiday, I'll take one with me and read one book a year. But although I'm just rereading what I've done, I haven't read one on holiday for the last few years. I've had books to read that I've then needed to review for the channel. So consequently, I'm just blitzing them, and I'm absolutely loving, really loving the series. It's great. It's really great, and I cannot wait to finish them. This time I'm just going to go through and do all 20. So there you go. Another good question. Okay, so we'll do all this in one take, and fingers crossed I've got all the technology in place. So this is the book in question, Fargo. Absolutely fantastic graphic novel, published by Gizmo Press. There's the Howard Chaykin signed book plate inside. Absolutely gorgeous. And what a beautiful book this is. This is mint unread. The smell is intoxicating. I love the smell of new graphic novels, and this is it's a really heavy book as well. So I'm hoping that whoever wins this is not too far overseas. Haha. But whoever wins. There was not that many entries, only about 6. So what I'll do, I've got a little app which will record the screen, and then I've got like a lucky dip on that. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to start the screen recorder app. So I'll be able to put this on the screen so you can see it. So screen recorder. Let's see. X recorder. I think that's the one. Enable floating icon. Yep. Okay. It's just loading. Here we go. Okay. Right, I think we're good to go now. So if I try screen recorder again, here we are, X recorder. Here we are, consent. Right, okay, so it's now recorded. I've got an app on my phone which is now recording the entire screen, so we can see this as we go along. So I'm now going to get up my Wheel of Fortune sort of lucky dipper. This is the Fargo draw, and you can see it's all been set in. So we're just going to go back. So we're not going to do it yet. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that they're on there. So we've got Stephen Sarabee, Glenn Grant, Dennis McCulloch, Jeff's Cave of Cool Books, and Keith Cole. 5 entries. That's all there was. All right. So, guys, if you're in the lucky dip, good luck to you. So let's spin the wheel then. Right. Ready? Here we go. Here we go. Fingers crossed, guys. Who's going to win? Whoever it is going to win it. Keith Cole, you were the lucky winner. So well done, mate. You won. Fargo is on its way to you. Obviously, just drop me an email, and this book is yours, mate. All right. So brilliant. Well done, Keith. So the last thing I wanted to do really was just to say thanks for all the support over the years. There's been so many people who've helped me out on my sort of YouTube journey. But first of all, obviously all my Patreon and channel members. I mean, you guys are the ones keeping the lights on. If I was just reliant on YouTube ad revenue alone, the channel would have ceased many years ago, and I would just be sort of, I wouldn't be doing this like I'm doing it today. So I know many people are in the same boat. The YouTube ad revenue is pathetic, really. So we really do rely on channel members and Patreon supporters. So if you've not supported the channel that way, from as little as £1 or $1, up to whatever amount you like, really, do please have a think about it, because it does make a massive difference. I've got about 100 people who support me that way. And yeah, it's fantastic. And one of the big perks is you get an exclusive video a week. You also get access. If I end up getting books, you get access to those books first of all. Any sort of sales videos I do, you usually get a week before. So there is an advantage, if you're a book collector, of being a channel supporter. So do thank me for that. Also, I've got another channel. Don't forget, I do have my dedicated book cleaning channel. So you can always go over there if you want a little bit more book cleaning content, if that's what you like to listen to. It's very relaxing for people. They love to see me sort of repair books, and I love doing it. So if that's something that you fancy as well, don't forget to check out my other channel. It's much smaller. There's only 2,500 subscribers, so it's tiny, but at the same point, I love it. I still really love doing it, and yeah, that's been good. But yeah, so some of my friends then, well, there's so many. Obviously, my good friend Steve, the outlaw bookseller, Richard at Vintage SF, Dave at Toy Ploy, who helped me out in my very early days. A huge channel. My brother-in-law, Paul, he runs Mile House Studios. He's also here on YouTube, and within a couple of years, he's doing absolutely fantastic. He'll be getting his plaque pretty soon for 100,000 subscribers. And more recent friends, people like Jeff from Jeff's Cool Cave of Books. He's become an instant friend where we're just on the same sort of wavelength. But there's so many others, and lots of other channels that I watch that I might not always even comment on, but I do really love, and there's just so many. I've got dealer friends, so many of those who give me great support. People like Dorset Bob and Morris at Zardos, really encouraging. The support I get from the show organisers when I go to like the London Paperback Show, or I go to toy fairs and I film because I'm promoting the shows, and those organisers are so grateful, and I'm happy to do it. But mainly it's my regular viewers, people who come back again and again, and I do thank you. I know not every video is for every person. I do the odd toy video, I do an odd video on corgi cars. I mean, if you're into books, you know, it's not really going to be your thing. I totally get that, but it's a way to keep me sane, and I have to do the variety. I can't just do it on one thing, and I think that's for the benefit of the channel, and I think people generally like that. So you know, it is what it is. So many people over in the States who are always so encouraging, people like Bob Dice, for example, the Men's Adventure magazine expert, and Michael Stratford, Bill Cunningham, Justin Marriott. I mean, the list is absolutely endless. There's so many great people out there who do encourage me to keep producing this sort of stuff, and I love doing it. So for the foreseeable future, this is what you're going to see me doing. And thanks again for 50,000 subscribers. Absolutely blown away by that. I've got great stuff planned over the next sort of 6 months or so, as long as real life doesn't really get in the way. And the next time you see me do one of these, I'll do one at 75,000, and then hopefully maybe a few years time, if I ever get to 100,000, we'll do one then as well. But yeah, thank you for watching today. It's been brilliant. Well done to Keith again for winning the Fargo book. Just drop me a line, Keith, and I'll get that one off to you. And yeah, thank you so much for the support. It's just absolutely awesome. It really is. And if any other booktubers want to like make contact, if we want to have a chat, if I can give you any sort of exposure, you only got to get in touch, and I'll be happy to do it. I'm here to help and nurture our little piece of YouTube. I really am. So do just drop me a line. Anyway, thanks very much for watching today. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.